If you feel trapped and stuck in a relationship with a narcissistic, abusive person, sometimes the reason you might feel trapped or stuck is because you haven't been able to separate the fantasies from the realities in the relationship. You may still be subscribing to the assumptions that you made when you were sold the narrative of the relationship, when you were sold these fantasies. And in today's video, I want to help define what some of these fantasies commonly are. And I want to help any of you struggling with this separate reality from fantasy. Welcome to Looking Behind the Mirror, where we explore narcissism and take our lives back as we make sense out of nonsense. As a quick disclaimer, everything I say is based on my opinions and my personal experiences. I'm not a professional, and if you're really struggling, I encourage you to seek professional help. I am providing links below for you. First, I want to say to any of my regular listeners, I'm sorry I haven't made any long content in a while. I've been really busy. I'm in a master's program, not in anything mental health related. I'm in a master's program for accounting, so I am an accountant, and that's taken a lot of my time. There's been a bunch of other things that have been happening, so I'm really going to try to focus and spend more time keeping up the channel. I appreciate any of you who have continued supporting me and continued listening to my content and my short content. I know I've been really sparse with that as well, but thank you for your patience. I'm really going to try to ramp it back up and make content a little more often than I have been. But onto the video. I know with this topic, sometimes the reason that we struggle so much with separating fantasy from reality is because it's a really painful process. It can be emotionally excruciating to face realities of things that have such deep emotional meaning to us. It's not fun. And so for as long as we avoid facing these really painful realities, we can remain stuck where we are because we haven't really been able to process the reasons that we would be better off leaving, or we haven't been able to really wrap our heads around how we could leave. And I also just want to point out that I don't personally know you, and I don't personally know whoever this person you're struggling with is. So I can't read anybody's minds, and I'm almost always speaking in generalities that are generally true. So I hope that the things that I say you use as tools to apply a critical thought and evaluate your personal situation. Because as I say so often in my videos, you really are the only one that can decide for yourself what's right for you. You are the authority on your life. You are the authority on what the things in your life mean to you. So take what I say as a tool that you can use to evaluate your situation, and not necessarily as gospel truth of what your personal situation is. So without further ado, let me get into some really common fantasies that can keep us trapped in the relationship. The first one I want to talk about is this idea that the narcissist knows you. They know you better than you know yourself. They know you so well. They know everything about you. And I have actually gotten into arguments with people about this idea, saying, oh, but they do know me. They know me really well. And I mean, yeah, on some levels they might, but they don't really know you. They don't really care about what you think about things, what you want, how you feel, what your needs are, what makes you tick, right? The level that they know you on is the level that they need to understand in order to manipulate you. So I compare it to knowing how to drive a car. You know how to get into a car, you know how to use the steering wheel and the gas pedal and the brakes, and you can manipulate that car. And most people watching this video are probably really good at manipulating an automobile into doing what you want it to do. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you understand anything about why the vehicle is responding to the things you're doing. You don't necessarily have any idea what's happening under the hood. You don't necessarily have any idea what's happening when you push on the gas. And for a narcissist, they are really good at driving the car. They're really good at manipulating you, pushing your buttons, learning the right things to say and not to say in order to get you to do what they want you to do. But that doesn't mean that they have an inkling of why these things work. It doesn't mean they have an inkling of what's really going on in your heart and in your mind. And they don't care. They really don't care. All they care about is controlling you, controlling the narrative, and molding you into the person that they want you to be, into the person that they think you're supposed to be. And as another argument for this, I'm going to say if they really knew you, then why would they be constantly accusing you of things that you haven't done? Why would they be constantly suspicious of the idea that you're lying to them when you're not? Why would they constantly misunderstand you? Why would they constantly struggle so much to understand the simplest concepts that you're trying to communicate to them? If they really truly understood you and knew you, if you are a trustworthy person, and only you know if you are, they would trust you, right? They would stop being so suspicious of everything you do. And I think the way that this can turn into a trap is first, just thinking like, oh, this person is so in tune with me. I've invested so much time with them. They know me so well. I can't just end this relationship with somebody who knows me so well, who's been, with me through all these terrible things they've put me through. But also the ideas that they have planted in your head about who you are. Because on the flip side of this idea that they know you, they know what they've invented in their head of who you're supposed to be. And if you don't have strong emotional boundaries or a lot of confidence in yourself and a really confident knowledge of who you are, a narcissist can manipulate you into believing that you are the person that they say you are. I've had narcissists in my life try to tell me all kinds of things about myself. That, I'm self-absorbed, I'm unorganized, I could go on. I'm stupid, I'm this, I'm that, and even maybe positive things as well. And I could turn around and say, oh, this person knows me better than I know myself. They know things about me that I didn't even realize, when really they're just making things up that support their narrative and that serve their needs and their interests. So this is why it's really important to understand that when somebody really knows you, you're not going to be constantly struggling to try to express yourself, to try to clear up misunderstandings, to try to prove that you do care about them, to try to prove that you didn't lie or that you didn't mean that thing the way that they thought you did. You wouldn't be constantly trying to prove yourself because they would already see you. They would already understand who you are and what kind of person you are. And so this feeling that you're constantly trying to prove to them the way that you feel and the things that you mean, that alone should show you that they don't know a thing about you, and that the things they tell you about you are things that they have made up in their mind or things that they're saying to manipulate you, because that's really the only thing they know about you, is how to manipulate you. The next fantasy that we need to break away from is this idea that they really care about us, or they really do love us, or they really do care about the relationship. And this, of course, is a very, very painful one. And this is a very difficult illusion to see through because it hurts so much, and because it's something that a lot of us are not ready to really look at. And it really sucks, right? When you're with someone who's supposed to love you, in any kind of relationship, maybe this is a parent or a sibling, or your best friend, or not necessarily a romantic partner, but just somebody who's supposed to care about you, who's supposed to have your best interests in mind. You're supposed to just be able to trust that. And so when you are recognizing that the relationship is harming you and hurting you, but then at the same time you're holding on to this belief that no, this person cares about me, they would never want to hurt me, they love me. This can really keep you trapped in the relationship, and it can also really keep you stuck in this vicious cycle of trying to explain to them what they're doing to you. Because when you can't let go of this belief that they care about you, and you can't let go of this belief that they would never want to hurt you, then you also have a really difficult time letting go of the attempts to explain to them how much they're hurting you. Because if they care about you, of course, if they understood how much their behavior was hurting you, they would stop doing it, right? So instead of being able to recognize that this person is showing you through their actions that they don't care about your feelings, they don't care if their behavior is hurting you, they're showing you that. Instead of accepting that, you just get stuck in this cycle of just trying so hard to explain it to them. Hey, you're hurting me. Hey, when you say that, it really hurts my feelings. Hey, when you do that, it really stresses me out. It makes me feel awful. And if I can just get you to understand these simple words I'm saying, then you'll stop and the problem will be solved. When in reality, when somebody cares about you, when somebody actually cares about whether or not they're hurting your feelings, when somebody cares about how you feel about things, you won't have to beg and plead and explain things 1,000 times to them. They will just act like they care about you. They will just respond when you say, hey, that really hurt my feelings, or hey, I don't like the way that thing you said or that thing you did made me feel. They will just listen to you and respond. And, maybe they'll be a little defensive, but they're not going to invalidate you, shame you for feeling bad, tell you how wrong you are, or turn everything around on you and then make themselves the victim of how bad you feel. People that care about you don't treat you like that. And also, when you are spending all this energy trying to explain simple concepts to them, thinking that if they just understood they were harming me, they would stop doing these things, I want you to really stop and think about how, I'm going to use the word disrespectful, how disrespectful that is to them. That's really insulting for you to think that they are so dense that they would repeatedly do something really harmful, something that really hurts you. And even after you've tried to tell them it hurts you, they still don't understand that this really hurtful thing that they're doing or saying is harming you. Like they're that stupid. This is a grown adult that you're dealing with. This person is well equipped enough to understand when they're doing something very hurtful, especially when you're telling them that what they're doing is hurting you. And I think that when you finally reach this point where you're able to accept that this person is clearly demonstrating to you that they don't care if they're hurting you, I think as painful as that is, that's a moment where you can finally be set free from this vicious cycle of trying to explain something to them that they already understand and don't care about. The next fantasy I want to talk about is kind of an interesting one. I really sat and thought about this for a while. And that is the idea, and again, this doesn't happen with all narcissistic relationships, but I think it happens enough. I wanted to bring it up in this video. And it's this idea that your relationship is really, really super special. Like it's written in the stars. There's some kind of supernatural destiny, and you are meant to be together. If you're religious, maybe there's some kind of religious connotation to it. This is who God wants you to be with. And of course, this is usually in the context of a romantic relationship. And of course, when you believe this, when you feel this way, it can be very, very difficult to break the relationship off after it becomes abusive or toxic. Or even if it becomes abusive or toxic, there's still this feeling that you're meant to be with this person and there's some kind of magical connection. You know, this is the one person you're meant to be with, your soulmate, and there's nobody else in the universe that can replace this person because they were like created for your destiny or whatever. And some people listening might think this sounds silly, but I'm sure a lot of you listening can understand what I'm talking about. A lot of us have experienced this. And so I have some thoughts on this phenomenon. First of all, it doesn't always necessarily end badly. I think that we can have this, what I would call limerence, this extreme infatuation and this somewhat delusional belief that this person is your destined soulmate. And for whatever reason, like things actually work out with this person and you actually end up building a healthy relationship with them that lasts for forever or whatever. But I want to make a point that if you get stuck in this feeling, if you feel this way about someone, it doesn't mean that things are going to work out. It doesn't really mean anything real. And you know, that's easy for me to say, right? I'm sure if you feel this way about someone, it's a lot harder to really be rational and let go of this belief that there's some kind of mystical meaning to your relationship, because if that's what you believe, that's what you believe. But I've been there, and I promise you that even if this feeling does mean something, even if there is such a thing as a soulmate or a twin flame or whatever, I promise you, you can feel that way about someone 100%, and you can be 100% wrong. And I can't tell you how you could know if you're right or wrong. You can be 100% convinced that this is your written in the stars soulmate that was destined to meet you at this point in time for all eternity. You can be 100% in that belief, and you can be 100% wrong. And there's a lot of reasons that you might feel this way about someone. Of course, I think they all have really deep psychological roots to them. One theory that I've heard that resonates with me is maybe in your childhood, or maybe when you were very young, maybe you ran into a lot of people that were emotionally unavailable, and you got really used to trying to connect to people who weren't emotionally available, trying to get their attention, trying to win their approval, trying to be loved. And so if you run into somebody in your adult life who gives you those same vibes and they start paying attention to you, that can really trigger some really deep-seated unmet emotional needs that go way back in your history. And of course that can make you feel like there's something super special about this relationship and that nobody could ever replace this person. And then of course there's the trauma bond, which just magnifies these feelings. Or a trauma bond could create these feelings from scratch if you weren't already feeling this way. And a trauma bond does this in a really similar way that a drug addiction can do this, by giving you intermittent feelings of contentment, making you feel good in like a roller coaster, inconsistency. So, you know, if this person is withholding attention and affection and making you feel nervous, making you feel unsafe, but then all of a sudden they smile at you, they say something nice, they do something nice, that euphoria, that hit, that feeling of happiness or whatever you would call it, just comes rushing in, and it gives you almost a drug-like euphoric feeling of relief. And so when things get bad, you're just, you know, you're constantly chasing the only thing that can make you feel better, which is that high when they treat you like a human being for a few minutes. And so that can make you feel like only they can make you happy. Only they can give you the fulfillment that you need in your life, because really they're the only one causing the pain and the discomfort and the feeling of unsafety that only they can heal, because they're the ones causing it. So I'm just gonna say, I promise you, there is nothing special, nothing written in the stars, no mystical, magical meaning in a relationship with someone who treats you like they don't care about you, somebody who makes you feel unsafe, unheard, invalidated, someone who makes you feel like you aren't worthy, someone who makes you feel like they're better than you and more important than you. There's nothing special there. There's nothing worth it there. Even if it is written in the stars somewhere, you deserve better than that. There's nothing there that is worth feeling like that in a relationship. There's nothing that person's going to give you that's going to make that all worth it. And one more point, this magical, mystical feeling of your soulmate or destiny or whatever is not an ingredient in a healthy relationship. It is not one of the ingredients at all. It's not on the list. Of all the things you need to build a healthy relationship, feeling of magical limerence and extreme infatuation is not on the list. It doesn't help. It can make things really fun for a little bit, but if you really want a meaningful, fulfilling relationship, if anything, that's just a distraction, or it's something that you need to grow beyond. So this feeling that no one else in the whole world could ever complete your life is not an ingredient for a healthy relationship. It's not something that's going to make it worth it if this person treats you like dirt. And at the end of the day, it really doesn't mean anything, and it's not worth anything if it's there all by itself and it doesn't have anything good coming along with it. Another fantasy I want to talk about is the idea that things are getting better. This is a really common thing that you will hear from victims of abuse, emotionally abusive, physically abusive, whatever kind of abuse this person's experiencing. Most abusive relationships aren't constant chaos. They are not constant torment, constant yelling, constant violence. Most abusive relationships are like a roller coaster, like I was saying about the trauma bond. There are good days, and things are usually pretty okay, except for when they're not. And so this can really keep you stuck, really keep you trapped, especially if you're emotionally invested in the relationship and you don't want to leave for whatever reason, or you don't want to confront this person. It is really, really easy for someone in this kind of relationship to feel like they need to leave when things are bad. You know, when there is an episode of abuse, you might suddenly see clearly that you need to get out, that this isn't going to get better, that this is going to keep happening. But then the next day, when the abuser smiles at you or does something nice, or, you know, you have a nice, quiet, pleasant day, it's really, really easy to tell yourself, oh, this isn't so bad. Why was I so upset yesterday? This is fine. Things are getting better. I think things are getting better now. He or she really seems to understand the things I've been saying. They're really coming around now. And just to tell yourself this, that things are getting better just because you had a few days or even a few weeks of pleasant times of not chaos and not abusive episodes, that doesn't mean that the abusive episodes aren't going to come back. And this can be really hard to get over because you don't want to leave. You want to see the best. You are waiting for things to get better. You are waiting for this person to finally understand what you've been trying to say to them. You are waiting for things to turn around. And so if that's what you're waiting for, if you're sitting there trying to communicate, trying to get through, being patient, and then things are good for a couple of days, well, isn't that what you were waiting for? I mean, at what point can you say to yourself, this is it. This is what I was waiting for. This is what I wanted. They're finally listening to me. Things are finally getting better. It was all worth it. Yay. I mean, at what point can you finally say that in a relationship? Can you say it after things have been good for a few weeks? Can you say it after a month? Can you say it after a year of no terrible episodes? I think this is something that's really hard to understand for somebody that's in an abusive relationship and somebody who's observing the abusive relationship from outside. is this cycle. When things are really awful, of course you're going to see clearly that things haven't gotten better, but 2 minutes into the better times, you're back where you wanted to be. So the time it takes you to pack your bags, you're already back into what you were hoping for. And how do you know that the abusive episodes are going to just keep recurring? They're just going to keep coming back. You have to get to a point where you realize that these episodes are never going to stop coming, and that in between these abusive episodes, there are going to be calms in the storm. There are going to be pleasant intervals in between the abusive episodes, and this is a pattern that's never going to stop. And you have to be willing to keep that clarity and keep that conviction in the time it takes you to pack your bags, which sometimes it might take you a year to plan your exit, or longer. Sometimes it might be quite an involved process to plan an escape. And you have to be able to keep that conviction and that clarity throughout these periods of time where things seem to be getting better, because things seeming to get better and then an episode again, that's the norm in an abusive relationship. That's what most abusive relationships are like. And I'll tell you, if you're in an abusive relationship, it's not going to get better on its own. It's not going to just stop. The abusive episodes are not going to just stop. These periods of time where things are better now, those are part of it. And you're going to be abused again. Abusive people don't stop abusing the people that they have been abusing. They just don't. It doesn't happen. Even if this person has some huge epiphany and they decide to go get help, to go through therapy and really work on their issues, which is extremely rare, but it can happen. Even if they do that, they're going to have an extremely difficult time changing the abusive habits that they've formed with you. They're going to have an extremely difficult time looking at you as somebody that they need to respect now. It's just not going to happen. And if you really need something to lean on, I think one thing that's really black and white, really concrete, that you can lean on for validation is the fact that the person that's abused you will not speak openly and honestly about what they've done to you and how it's made you feel. If you can't have an open, honest discussion with this person where they take full accountability for how much they've hurt you and they don't subtly blame you for it or turn it around on you, if you can't have that kind of conversation with them, then 100%, they absolutely are not going to stop abusing you. And even if they do have these moments where they're willing to be open and honest about the ways that they've hurt you, when that happens, the next day, suddenly they've changed their tune and it's all your fault again. So even in a case like that, it's still not a sign that things really are getting better now. So all of that being said, in my opinion, if someone has abused you, especially if it's turned into a pattern where there's an abusive episode and then things get better, and then there's abuse again and then things get better, and you've seen this happen a couple times, it's not worth hanging around. It's not worth waiting around to see if they really are the one person in the world that's just suddenly stopped the abusive cycle on their own. There's nothing there that's worth taking that kind of chance, because an abusive relationship will absolutely destroy everything about you. If it doesn't physically destroy you, it will emotionally destroy you. It will inhibit your ability to be authentic with yourself, to express yourself, to feel safe in your own home. There's nothing this person can do for you that's worth the risk of waiting around to see if things magically change on their own. And I just want to go over one more fantasy, one more lie that's kind of backwards, kind of a negative illusion that you might have. And that is the idea that you can't do anything about this. You can't leave. You can't set this boundary. I know that there are situations in life where it can seem impossible, where it can seem terrifying or completely overwhelming, where the risks you're taking seem impossible or way too high. And leaving an abusive relationship is dangerous. So don't get me wrong, there are big risks. It is dangerous. I wouldn't ever want to make that decision for anyone else. Like, you need to decide for yourself that you want more out of your life. And I want to tell you that as overwhelming and scary as it can seem, as impossible as it can seem, one thing the narcissist and other manipulative, controlling people don't want you to realize is that you can do things. You can do hard things. You can do scary things. Things that seem completely overwhelming. You can be overwhelmed by them and you can still do them. You can be terrified by them and you can still do them. You can do so much more than you think you can do. You are capable of so much more than the narcissist ever wants you to realize. You can do hard things, and the narcissist doesn't want you to realize that. They want you to believe that you can't live without them. No one else is ever going to give you a chance. No one else is ever going to hire you. No one else is ever going to love you. You're not going to be able to find a way to support yourself or survive. That is also a fantasy. You are capable of more than you think. And although, as I've said, it is a risk, there are no guarantees. Maybe if you do try to leave or break things off, maybe bad things will happen. Maybe it will blow up in your face. But I want you to think about the fact that staying doesn't protect you from that either. You could stay, you could do nothing, and everything could blow up in your face tomorrow anyway. There are no guarantees anywhere. And only you can decide the direction that you're going to go to make the most out of this one life that you have that belongs to you. This is your life. And you are capable of doing hard things. You are capable of controlling your own destiny and making your own decisions and taking your own risks. So if things do blow up in your face, you can at least say, I tried. I did what I thought was best for me, instead of letting other people decide how my life story was going to go. I know it can be really difficult to face these lies and these fantasies. It can be really, really painful to understand these realities and to see people that you cared about, people that you loved, to see them for who they really are and to see them for how they actually see you. But you deserve something real. You deserve what waits for you on the other side of all these fantasies. Somebody who actually sees you for who you are, somebody who cares about you, somebody who's not going to lie to you in order to keep you around. Somebody who can show you that the best fantasy in the world can never compare to something that's real. I hope this helps. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe if you like this video and would like to see more like it in the future. Until next time, thank you. Bye.